and gentlemen, this day finally arrived. It's your boy Icon with a little Marvel TV. I found something purple and green, and the season premiere of She-Hulk episode 1 is entitled A Normal Amount of Rage. So, yeah, here we go. Right, I'm not going to. I'll share my overall thoughts at the end. Let's just review it, and knowing me, I'm just going to point out things as I go along with the review. But I will say this: it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So I will at least say that. But the episode starts, the season starts, the series starts, the premiere starts, where she is already She-Hulk. And she's preparing for a case that she's doing. She's talking to, I guess, like one of her friends who's a paralegal. And because the show is based on feminism and it's written by a woman, directed by a woman, produced by a woman, starring a woman, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But there is going to be, I can see it coming now, there's going to be an overly abundance of men, quote unquote, getting what they deserve, because the in the opening scene where she was prepping for, for the case that she was about to do, there was a male lawyer, there was a paralegal and a male lawyer that was in the room with her. And the male lawyer was being a jerk, and he was just like, oh, you need to let me do the closing statement and I'm going to do it better. And then she was just like, I don't need your help or whatever. So it's like, it was like her like putting, it's going to be a thing where there's going to be a bunch of men just being assholes for no reason, and she's going to end up putting them in their place. So you got to be ready for that. So she decides that, she's still going to do the closing statement. And then when her and all of her friends, like, when they get ready to leave the room, she turns around and then she looks at the camera and tells the audience, a la Deadpool style, that she's already a She-Hulk, but there's a way that we got here. And she said that her being a She-Hulk doesn't matter. What's important is this cool lawyer comedy show that we're about to see, dear God. And before we get to that point, she's like, I feel the need to explain all the She-Hulk nonsense. Now, regarding her talking to the camera, I'm going to let that slide because one, it actually didn't bother me. And two, I mean, from what I was told, she did that in the comic book anyway. So because it is comic book accurate and not them just like being stupid for no reason, I will accept that. So her talking to the camera thing, I'm going to be perfectly fine with that. So she tells the story about how she became a She-Hulk, and this is where I have problems. Bruce Banner is back. So she ends up going on a trip with her cousin Bruce. Yes, that Bruce Banner. And when Bruce is in the car, he's completely normal. Now, we were told in Avengers Endgame that he did some secret experiments on himself to combine both Bruce Banner and the Hulk together to make one being, because in Avengers Endgame, Hulk had after Hulk got the hands and caught the two-piece with an extra biscuit from Thanos, Hulk didn't want to come out during the rest of the movie when they were fighting, like Thanos' crew and the whole thing. And to this day, it was never explained why the Hulk didn't want to come out after he caught the two-piece with extra biscuit from Thanos. They never explained that. And then in the second movie, in Infinity War, Endgame, whatever, then in the second film, he's Smart Hulk. He said that he learned how to put the man and the muscle together, and he never explained why he thought he had to do that. And again, the question of why Hulk never wanted to come out was never explained. So now that we're in She-Hulk, he's sitting in the car with his cousin, and he looks like Bruce Banner. And he was just like, oh, I just came up with some random wristwatch that turns me back into Bruce Banner. And I'm just like, when did that happen? Why did that happen? Did you always have this device? Was this device always a thing? Did you just recently come up with it? Those answers were never explained, and I'm very confused. So, so the two of them are talking, they're having conversation, and then while they're talking, the spaceship that they stole from the guy who ran Planet Hulk in Ragnarok, I believe that's his ship, that ship appeared on Earth and floated right in front of Bruce's car. She-Hulk spun out of control when the ship showed up, so she got startled because the spaceship basically just popped up in front of her car. She lost control of the car, and the two of them went over a cliff and they crashed. Once again, I'm confused by this because if a spaceship appeared, if an alien spaceship appears in front of your vehicle, and due to that appearance, it caused Homegirl to get scared and drive her car off the road. And then Hulk even said, because she asked him later on, she was like, was that a spaceship that popped up in front of us? He said, yes, clearly they were trying to reach out to me for whatever reason. If that's the case, and if they were looking for you specifically, Bruce Banner, why would they not go down to the wreckage after you crashed and make sure that you're okay so they can actually talk to you? It's almost like they just watched you crash and then flew away, and I thought that was really weird. So then after they crashed, she gets out of the car and then she's bleeding. Her arm is cut or whatever. She's looking for Bruce. She gets Bruce out of the passenger side, and then Bruce tells her, he's like, oh, don't touch me. I'm bleeding and you might get infected. And that's exactly what happened. Like, blood dripped off of his body. It went into the open wound that she had on her arm. Bruce's blood got into her system, and then she started turning green and hulked out and became an Incredible Hulk. So now I'm just like, his blood was radio. See, a lot of the issues that I have with this episode actually has nothing to do with She-Hulk itself. It's really all the Bruce Banner shit. So now all of a sudden, his blood is capable of transforming people into an Incredible Hulk. This was never explained before because, again, in Avengers Endgame, when they were fighting Thanos' entire armada, he had his arm broken. I'm pretty sure even in Ragnarok, I'm pretty sure there were cuts, there were bruises. I'm pretty sure from the moment from the very first Hulk movie all the way up until this point, I am pretty sure he has bled at least one time. And now all of a sudden, we're concerned about his blood getting into other people's bloodstream. This was never a concern before. Why is this a concern now? What changed? What's different? Is there any? Because if they're trying to be like, oh, I was always concerned about my blood mixing with other people, bullshit. So that bothered me. And honestly, the way that she became the She-Hulk, it was lame. It was basically just she saved Bruce Banner from a car crash, and his blood just accidentally touched her blood and mixed together. That's some lame ass shit. Like, I'm sorry, that was lame. It seemed like they were just trying to rush. They didn't want to come up with a cool reason for her to become She-Hulk, so they just rushed it. Because again, this is a Disney Plus Marvel show, so we're probably only getting 6 episodes. So they rushed the hell out of this and just came up with the most basic reason they could possibly come up with for her to transform. And I honestly thought it was stupid. So his blood touches her blood. She ends up hulking out, but she's enraged, and then she runs off. She ends up calming down at some point. She's in front of a bar. She goes to a bar, and then some girls like gave her makeup and gave her clothes for whatever reason. She's outside. She calls Bruce and has Bruce come pick her up. Bruce doesn't answer the phone. She's waiting for Bruce to show up, so he can come pick her up. And I'm just like, you kind of like ran away from him, so I don't know why he would come back at that point. But then, like some guys come outside and they're trying to get her attention. And then she's just like, no thanks, I got a man. And they persist, like on trying to get her attention. And then she gets mad and she hulks out again. She scares the guys that were harassing her. And then Bruce Banner Hulk shows up out of nowhere and snatches her up. He takes her to some remote island in Hawaii, I think it was. No, Mexico. They were in Mexico. He takes her to his base in Mexico where he has an underground like medical facility that he said Tony Stark built for him because he kept name dropping Tony Stark like all the time. And he said that this was the lab where he learned how to put the man and the muscle together. He tells her that, unfortunately you have Hulk in you now. You're an Incredible Hulk. And he said, I'm going to teach you on how to be a Hulk and how to control your power. While he was teaching her how to control the power throughout the entire montage, we did find out that although she was angry and although she experiences rage, she's in control of who she is. Whereas like with Bruce Banner, it was both Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Like they were two different people. And whenever he hulked out, he turned himself into a completely different person. The Hulk was a different person. That's not the case with his cousin because she's still the same person. She just hulked out. And Bruce thought that was weird. He was like, wait, so you don't have anybody else driving or nobody else's hands on the wheel? But I feel like the reason why that happened was because the blood that got into her system was smart Hulk blood and not original Hulk blood. Because again, he said he did an experiment on himself to put the man and the muscle together. So if that blood gets into her system, she's not going to have an alter ego like a separate entity or a separate person because Bruce no longer has that himself because of the experiment that he did on himself. She doesn't have the ego and she's just like, I'm just me. And then he's going through the whole spiel with her. She's crushing it as far as the Hulk training is concerned. And then he tells her, he's just like, listen, he said, now that you're going to be a superhero, there's some rules and regulations that you got to follow. And she's just like, I'm not going to be a superhero. That's stupid. That's not my calling. That's not what I want to do. Bruce couldn't accept that for whatever reason. And then the two of them got into an argument where he was just like, you have to be a superhero. And I thought that was weird to him. Like, why does she have to be a superhero? And then she was just like, no, I'm just going to be a lawyer and help people the old fashioned way. And then it caused the two of them to get into a big Hulk fight, She-Hulk versus Man-Hulk. And then the two of them, like argued, they tore up the island, they fought back and forth, but eventually they calmed down. And then after that, he was just like, all right, cool. cool. He said, listen, if you want to go back to your life, I'm not going to stop you. So go do your thing. And then if you need me, I'll be here in case you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Because like Bruce said, he said that he said, I'm the only person who knows what you're going through. And let's be honest, you running into difficulty with your powers, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. He said, eventually you will freak out. And when that happens, call me. So she gets in her car and she dips. She goes back home, goes back to her life, back to being a lawyer. And like she said in the beginning, so now like her family knows that she's a She-Hulk. I don't know why they told her family. Bruce knows, obviously. And then the paralegal, her best friend, knows. And I'm just like, where was the conversation for that? Where was the scene for that? Why does her best friend know? Like, we're skipping things here. And I hope at some point there's a backstory on why she told her best friend or how her best friend found out. Because if they never explain why her friend knows that she's a She-Hulk, I mean, that's kind of lame too, because it's like, why would you not explain that? Especially if they work together. It's like, that's something you would want to explain. So now we're getting the lawyer show, unfortunately. We're getting the lawyer show. There's, like she said, there's no She-Hulk. She's like, I can control my power. There was even a moment on the island where she was able to control the changes at will. So she's like, we're not getting a She-Hulk. We're just getting a lawyer movie. She's doing her closing statements at the lawyer house. Her douchebag lawyer male guy, he was like, don't blow this or whatever. When she stands up to give her, her closing statement, then a mysterious superpowered villain-like being busts through the courtroom and starts yelling and screaming, doesn't threaten anybody, doesn't attack anybody, just stands there and starts screaming. Her best friend says to her, oh my God, it's time for you to do your thing. And I'm just like, why would you just, like, I feel like something else happened before we got to this point that they just skipped over. Because for her friend to just automatically be like, oh, there's some random, super powered being that just busted into the wall like the Kool-Aid man. Hey, Hulk out and just defeat her. And I'm like, why? Like, the setup for that was bad. Like, there was like that was trash. Like, the setup for her, it was just weird to me. Like, there's something off about about what's going on here. And so then she's just like, okay, hold my jacket. She takes off her shoes. She hulks out, punches the villain in the face, knocks the villain out, and then she just turns back to normal. And she's like, I'm ready to give my opening statement. And that's how the episode ended. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm very confused, but that was how the episode ended. I guess it was a normal amount of rage, and thank you for tuning in. So I will say this. The episode wasn't bad. Like, because based on the trailer and the interview that I saw at San Diego Comic-Con, like, I was expecting this first episode to be 100% flaming garbage. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it wasn't great either. Like, I feel like because they're only getting 6 episodes, because it's a short season, I feel like they're rushing a lot of things now. There are certain things, like, again, like, we rushed the whole thing about her getting powers. It was just like, oh, car accident, blood touch, bam, you're a Hulk now. Oh, training montage, you already know what you're doing, so there's no it's like, we just skipped a lot of things just to get to some weird point, and there's holes here. There's like frustrating holes here, especially on the Bruce Banner front. But I mean, again, but aside from all that, like, it was, like I said, it was decent, but it got me interested to see what happens in episode 2. We're not low on it yet. We're not high on it. We're still in the middle here. Like I said, we still got to figure out, like, where things go. I mean, the only reason why I even bothered to review it aside from content is because I want to see what happens with Daredevil and where the Sorcerer Supreme falls and all this. But as far as like the rushed aspect of the first episode, hopefully some of the stuff that they rushed through, I hope they go back and explain and get a little bit more detail, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. The biggest issue that I have with these Marvel Disney Plus series is because we only get 6 episodes, they rush a lot of things and they speed up storylines, and I just need a little bit more detail and a little bit more flushed out storytelling when it comes to this thing. Like I said, but share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. Hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram. Let me know what you thought about the first episode. Did you hate it? Was it trash? Did you like it? Did you think it was great? Are you somewhere in the middle too? Because like I said, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I'm still here, and I'm just waiting for them to, to make me choose which way I go with this. But because I thought it was going to be complete trash, I guess me being 50-50 is a good thing so far. So that was it, guys. So we are going to keep doing this. We're going to review some more She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. God, I can't believe that's still the title. And we will see what happens in the next episode. So thanks for tuning in, guys. For more content, check out my Harley Quinn reviews. So always check out my She-Hulk reviews, because we're doing all 6. And at the end of the month, on August 31st, we have the returning Stargirl. So until next time, for some more She-Hulk action, calm your rage, keep a normal amount of rage. But until next time, we're hulking out this bitch!